So, top of the morning, my world. It's your boy Kish, my world here, and today I am with
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline Million. She's joined us again for another beautiful video, and today we're actually going to talk about the cultural shocks we experienced when we moved here to Sweden. As you know, I'm from Kenya, and Jackie is originally she's from Eritrea, but that doesn't really count because she's Italian, born and bred. You can explain for yourself where you're from before I say it.
I'm originally from Eritrea, but I am born and I grew up in Italy. So I think my cultural shocks are more like moving from Italy to Scandinavia.
Yeah, so she's gonna compare her like what she found different here from Italy, and mine, of course, is from Africa in Kenya. So yeah, here we go. This is our cultural shocks for moving from our home countries to Sweden.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it, see how.
Yeah, guys, so yeah, without wasting any time, we're just gonna jump straight into it.
Yes.
Yeah, our cultural shocks, and ladies first. So, Jackie, go first.
Thank you. So number one for me was how serious people are. Like you are in the street, people don't smile at each other a lot. They don't. It's not normal like to talk to strangers. Like maybe it is in Italy or I guess also in Kenya, maybe, right?
Yeah, like people don't smile at each other a lot,
Yeah.
or like they're not friendly, maybe.
Yeah, like in Italy, if you go to a cafe or something and you're having your coffee and you're alone and you speak to someone sitting next to you, they will not look at you like you are a crazy person, you know, they'll just have a small talk with you and then you move on and that's it. But here they will be like, what is this person wanting from me or something?
Yeah, actually, and also to think about that, like I remember when I moved, actually, when I give my perspective, I'll be combining Norway and Sweden because I lived in Norway and then I lived in Sweden, and it's like the same culture. But I remember when I moved in Norway the first few months or something, in my brain I thought people are so friendly because when you're walking I was living not like in Oslo, in the town, a bit further, people would walk and then they'd be like, they give you these half smiles.
This fake smile.
Yeah, but you might think they're very friendly because me I was like, wow, everybody's so friendly here. But actually is because that's a way of expressing their awkwardness. They always give you these like small smiles, like, but they're really fake smiles, no?
But then if you're like, hey, how are you?
Yeah, then they
They're
don't.
like, oh.
They're like, oh, why are you talking to me? Like, oh, why are you? So yeah, I think that's a culture shock. Actually, people are very
Reserved.
they do not understand the concept of talking to just strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And small talk.
And small talk. Wow. I don't know. Let me check my one. The ones that I've written. Mine also. It will take me back to that place. It was called in Fredrikstad. So I had just arrived in this country. I was still smelling Africa. And then we went out. It was on a Saturday night, I think. So we were supposed to go out. So I was so happy, so pumped up. I want to see the nightlife in Europe. So we stayed at home, like usual, like Kenya, we usually stay at home and we leave like at 11, get to the club like 12. It was the same thing here. So we get there at 12, and then now we get there, before we start looking at the place, checking out the
It's 1
ladies,
already.
how they look, blah, 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 getting in the groove of it. So it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Then I'm like, okay, now it's time to start partying, like getting into the heat of things. And then the clock strikes 3. Then my host and his ex-wife, they come and they're like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, let's go. Where are we going? He's like, yeah, we need to leave. Then I'm thinking, we just arrived. Then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's because they want us to go to a different
Another
club or
place.
something. So I thought, oh, we're going to another place. He's like, no, we're going home. And I'm like, not home? Why are we going home at 3 a.m.? And she's like, yeah, because the clubs are closed. And I was so shocked, like in Scandinavia, like Norway and Sweden, clubs close at 3 a.m. So
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was so frustrated. I was so angry. And I was just like, oh, why? Like, how like how does it make sense that you close clubs at 3 a.m. And I was like, can't you go to another club? And they're like, no, it's the entire country that closes at 3. So that was the next culture shock that was like for me.
Yeah, but for me, I had that shock when I moved from Denmark to Sweden, because in Denmark clubs don't close at 3. They close like at 5, 4. Then when I moved to Sweden, I was shocked that some clubs close at 2 or at 3. Yeah, it's weird.
And for you that don't know, Jacqueline moved from Italy to Denmark, and then from Denmark now to Sweden. So that's why she might throw in some Denmark
so
there.
We are giving the whole Scandinavian perspective.
Yeah, basically, or more of like, but more of Swedish actually, because this is what we have in common. Yeah. What's your next one?
So my next culture shock is the fact that in Scandinavia, in Sweden, but also the other countries, you usually, of course there are exceptions, but usually you don't know your neighbors. Yeah, you can be living in a building for like 5 years and you literally have no idea who is the person living in front of your door. It can be anybody you barely meet. If you meet, maybe you give that fake smile, you know, and then that's it. You don't know their names, you don't know if they have kids. It's really weird.
Yeah.
And for me it was a shock because in Italy, in my building, like everyone used to know each other. You're not friends with everybody, but you know everybody. You can tell who lives in this door, and then you might also be close with some people. Like with our family, we had people we used to go to eat at and, you know, hang out with. Then I came here.
Very different.
Nobody looks at you. Like you can just, it's very weird.
Yeah. That's a similar culture to like Kenya, where I'm from, because people know their neighbors. In fact, in Kenyans, you know, they are very curious. It's something we call udaku,
like
wanting to know.
Like that.
Like for example, if you're a new neighbor and you move into a place, then the neighbor, they'll be waiting until when they hear like maybe you open the door, then they pretend they wanted to go and like take something out. Then they're like, oh hi, how are you? Just to get to know you, you know, because they don't want to like come knocking, but they really want to meet you. So they'll always say hi, welcome you to their place. They just want to learn, okay, who is this, you know, just to have that friendliness. But yeah, that's true. Here in Scandinavia is very, very different, because I remember also when I moved here in Sweden, and then I bought my apartment where I was living before, and I lived there for 4 years in that apartment. I've never met my neighbors. I meet them sometimes, but we've never exchanged words. So life becomes very funny here. You don't know your neighbors, you don't know, and those are the people who can help you in first hand if you're in trouble, you know. So it's kind of a sad reality here. Yeah, but it is what it is. And actually, talking about that, I can add my next cultural shock. Is, for example, if you somehow get to make a friend or somebody, like know new people, or like maybe if it's like the work you do, like for example the work I do here in Sweden, you will go into somebody's house to visit them for some strange reason. They allow you there. Then when if it's time for them to eat, they will eat. They will go in the fridge, remove food here, and they'll start eating while you're there. Like it's very, I don't understand how they don't offer you, because like in my culture in like Kenya, you can never eat and somebody's watching you.
That's so crazy.
Even if you don't have enough food, you will stay hungry until that person leaves, or whatever reason, like you can't share. But you can't just start eating and that person is there watching you. But here it's so common. Like you can just go, like for example, when I go to like people's houses to help them, when like, you know, these people who I work with, you can see some people just come and they eat their dinner, and of course I don't want the food, but for me it always feels strange that somebody can just sit there and eat. Like I would feel so weird, like just eating and there's a visitor there looking at me. Or even if you visit like your friends, like if it's kids, you know how kids go to other kids' places, the parents will just come and then give these kids food, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe you have seen, there was this like thing on Twitter, Sweetgate they call it, where they were talking about this thing that in Sweden is normal for kids to go to other people's house, and then when the family has to eat, they tell the kid, okay, now you can go to my bedroom and wait for me, I have to go have dinner. And then at least it's better to say, sorry, now we have to eat, can you go home, rather than say, can you wait for me in my room,
so that you continue giving us your company, you know. That's Scandinavia, man. Don't be surprised, people come here and they start eating, they'll eat their own stuff.
But to be honest, I'm lucky it has never happened to me so far, so I hope it doesn't happen. That's weird. Yeah, but the next one that we have.
It's still on the food.
No, actually, it's maybe a good one, which I was a bit shocked when I came here to see that people are very honest to each other, or like there is a high level of trust in the society. So people trust each other. They trust more or less, of course, the government. In general there is trust. So most times if someone is trying to tell you something or help you with something, you don't have to like be alert that they're trying to scam you or they're trying to steal from you. Most times they're actually telling you the truth, or
True. Yeah, actually, I remember an experience again when I just moved here. I hadn't moved in here. I was a tourist, and then there was this Norwegian girl that I was dating. So we went for a trip to Gothenburg here in Sweden, and it was a conference or something. And then when we were walking, I found a 500 krona note on the ground. Somebody had dropped 5,000 krona. And 500, I mean. 500 krona is like $50, let's say, or like 5,000 Kenyan shillings, if you translate. So I saw that money, I picked up, and I was like, oh, look, I found money. Then this girl, I thought, how in Kenya, you're like, oh, wow, exciting. Just let's go out, let's do something. She made me go and give it to the reception. And I was like, what? He's like, but you don't know whose money is. Yeah, but it's like, but the owner might come back and look for it and then go to the reception. And it pained me so much at that point, because that was not in my culture, that honesty. I was like, okay, we need to give it back to the reception. And I was like thinking, this is 5,000 Kenyan shillings I'm going to hand. And then I'm thinking to myself, but if she doesn't claim, that the receptionist will just claim my luck, Yeah, but it's a society of trust and just honesty.
That's
so I was forced to give it back, and hopefully the owner got it back.
Yeah, hopefully. That's why also I was surprised when I moved here and I saw that supermarkets, for example, they keep food outside, shops keep clothes outside. In Italy, it's not possible. The next day, everything will be gone.
Yeah.
But here, they trust.
And also the things like even in the gas stations, you go and you fill your own gas, and then you take yourself to the counter to pay.
Okay,
If it was other societies in a country like the one I don't want to mention I live in, people would fuel it up and then just drive off, So there's a lot of trust and there's a lot of openness in that one. Yeah, okay. And for mine, the next one was the difficulty also in making friends, because you can stay in this country for so long before making like friends you would call friends, especially Swedish friends. That's why you find most foreigners who come here, they'll make friends with people from their same country, because at least we understand each other,
Or other foreigners.
Yeah. But it's really difficult to like become friends with the Swedish people and become like good friends, So that one I found it to be a bit difficult. And also like when you want to find like a girlfriend, also from a man's perspective, because in like a society like men in Kenya, you can just go in the streets and stop a girl and talk to her, get her number, and you get like a girl. It's so much easier. Here it's a bit difficult because you can't just stop a stranger, because they'll be like, okay, what's happening? Like, why are you stopping me? Are you police? Are you who? Like, It's so difficult. So both in making friends, and even like if it's your work colleagues, you guys are just like literally, I find it so weird, because at work you'll speak in the work spaces. As soon as you live out there, nobody wants to talk. Like, they just want to go home and do their own thing.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot create it. In Kenya, if you're working, even if it's your first week, you'll make friends, because as soon as work is done, they'll be like, hey, let's go out, let's go eat, let's go drink, let's go do something, They want to learn you, they want to become your friends, But here it's so much difficult. And
but also in Italy, after work, there is culture of going with workers to have a drink, have dinner together. But in Scandinavia, it doesn't happen. And also, it goes back to the fact that there is this awkwardness when you meet someone in the street. You don't feel comfortable just speaking to them. That's why people use dating apps a lot here instead, to meet people, make friends, find girlfriends,
get some.
Yeah.
So your next one.
I don't remember. Wait.
Cultural shocks.
I think my next one is how many bikes there are. especially in Denmark. In Sweden, not that much actually.
Yeah, even in Sweden, in Malmo.
In Malmo, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's flat maybe. But in Copenhagen, oh my god, like there are bikes everywhere, and bikes have priority before cars, before pedestrians. Like they are like ruling the city. The only places I've seen more bikes than Copenhagen is Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But coming from Italy to Denmark, I was very impressed because of course it's very good for like the environment that people use so many bikes, and they don't care if it's snowing, it's raining, it's hot. If they have 3 kids, they will carry them in the front of the bike. They will go shopping, everything with the bike. So it's really amazing, I think.
Yeah, that's actually a positive thing because it really helps in save money, save the environment and all this stuff. And the good thing I like is also the government makes it easy to own bicycles, because there's like always bicycle lanes, dedicated bicycle lanes. They take care of them when it snows. They also make sure they remove the snow, take off the ice. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good cultural shock.
But if you come as a tourist, I would say be careful, because when I moved, I tried to ride a bike here in Denmark in the lanes, and people were they kept ringing at me because I was going too slow. So if you're a tourist, maybe you should not ride a bike.
No, you just learn. It's about time. Yeah, for the next one, I was surprised at how people here are really good at keeping time. It's they're really punctual. If it's like 7 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And also, the first thing is like, for example, if you're meeting somebody and you come with your Africanism in you, and you're 5 minutes late, they get so offended, so you barely do that next time, because you're like, oh my gosh, it's only 5 minutes, it's not a big deal. But then when you see the reaction of people, you actually get to see how it is.
I think like 5 minutes is the maximum that you can be late, but then you have to acknowledge
offensive,
you're late.
Yeah, and you have to say it in advance. And this one reflects in institutions. Like, for example, when I was working in the dentist office, if you come more than 5 minutes late, then your appointment is cancelled and you get a fine, for coming late, because their time is really important and to be respected. So you have to actually just always say, I'm going to be late because of this and that, or because ABCD, but don't just show up late. That's not
you have to call
acceptable.
So it's always better to get there 5 minutes early.
Yeah, 5 minutes early is okay. On time is late. Late is
you're cancelled. But it's good because then everyone is on time. Should I go? Okay, my next culture shock is the fact that I felt like in Scandinavia in general, I think there is not a lot of service in public places. Like if you are in Italy or in Kenya, even it was the same when we were there. If you go to a restaurant or a cafe, the people working there, they will try to make sure you are okay, ask you what do you need and all of that. But here they do the bare minimum because it's their job probably, so they have to do it. But for example, you go to a cafe, a lot of times you have to stand in the queue first to order, then you say what you want, you pay, then again you go find yourself a table, and then you have to get up and get the drink yourself. And it's not like stuff are cheap in Scandinavia. So even though you pay like $7 for a coffee, you still have to order it yourself, get it yourself. Then you have to look for sugar, milk if you want to add, all of that. So for me it was a shock, because in Italy I'm used that you go to a cafe, you sit, they come, ask you what do you want, they come, they bring you the cup, they even
it's cheaper.
It's like $2 maybe for a coffee, and then they even give you like a biscuit or something, a chocolate, and when you leave, you just leave your cup there, that's it. And so it was,
I mean, service here is not highly prioritized, like you said, and
when you compare to these countries, of course.
Yeah, exactly. But even like, for example, even in like stores here in Sweden, like grocery stores, most of them, they have a self-service place, because they're trying to avoid human contact as much as you can. So you go and you buy everything you want, then you go to a machine, you beep for yourself, you park for yourself, and then you pay and you go. Because like service in Kenya, like when I was in Kenya recently, I just kept forgetting. Because even when you go to the counter with the cashier, they do everything. Then there's somebody there who's packing your bags for you.
Actually, for me, that was surprising when we went to Kenya.
Yeah, they pack your bags for you. They make sure everything is okay.
Yeah.
They even carry it to your car if it's heavy. But here in Scandinavia, like if they actually do take the time to blip it for you, you have to pack yourself. Nobody's going to do that.
And sometimes you even have to take the things and move and pack somewhere else because
because they want, like, the next person.
Yeah.
And of course with the gas station and stuff also, you have to put your own gas.
Yeah.
In Kenya, you go to the gas station, somebody comes, cleans your windows.
Yeah.
Another one is like checking your tire pressure, putting gas for you, all these things. And it's not at an extra fee, So here service is like every man for himself.
I mean, for example, the person packing for you or putting the gas, I understand, because that's like extra manpower, which cost, but it's expensive. Manpower in Scandinavia is expensive because people have high salaries. But then on the other hand, things like a cafe or a restaurant, it's like, it wouldn't take much, I think.
Yeah, and actually some cafes or some restaurants, you might find that service, table service, but then it's like super expensive. Yeah, it's super expensive.
And also a lot of times the service that they give you is not as good as it would be in other countries.
Yeah, it's not up to par.
It's just they're there and just take your order and then that's it. Sometimes they ask you how was your food, most times they don't, and that's all. So but it's fine.
Yeah. All right, so for my next one, it actually happens in this time of year because it's in the winter time. And this one is gonna be like in double parts because first of all, in the winter time is so dark, and in the summertime is very, very bright. So I remember when I was my first time again when I was coming to this part of the world, I was going to Norway. So I had a transit flight in Belgium, and I arrived early and I had a long layover. But then I was just walking around the airport and admiring everything. And then there was so much light, the sun was still shining. And I thought, like, because my flight was like at 7 or 8. And then I thought it's like 2 or 3 o'clock because I was like, the sun is still out, so I'm not worried about it. Until I happened to look at the watch, and then I saw, oh shit, it's like maybe like 15 minutes to boarding time, And I was so surprised, like, what's happening, because the sun was shining and it's like 7:30. That never happens in my country because darkness comes in at 6 and light goes at 6. So, like, it's always the same time. So I had to run. So that one was a big culture shock. And then in the winter, the other way around. Like now is winter time. By 4 o'clock, pitch dark. 4 o'clock, you won't see any light. And the sun, you'll never see it anyway this time. So that contrast was very big for me. And then the worst thing now, the part 2 is here, they actually change the clock. So sometimes it can be 4 o'clock at this time in this half of the year. Then another time they take the clock forward 1 hour or like 1 hour behind. I still don't grasp that concept, but time is changing, So that's why in Kenya, sometimes we are like 2 hours ahead. Sometimes we're 1 hour ahead. So it's just like they have to change the clock because of the sun. So
because of saving the flight.
So I don't know how you experienced, or you grew up with daylight savings because you were brought in Italy.
Yeah, it was the same.
Okay, so that one was nothing for you.
No, it was not a shock because it was the same in Italy.
And also in Italy, the nights in the summer are the nights are shorter.
That one was a little shock, not a huge culture shock, but the fact that here in summer the day is so long, light goes down so late and comes up so early, so the night time is very, like, dark hours are very short here in Scandinavia. But yeah, it wasn't so hard to get used to it, I guess. Yeah.
What was your next shock?
I don't think I have.
Okay. Yeah, man. So those are some of the cultural shocks. I think we've talked about almost everything. And so if you ever come to Sweden or to Scandinavia, and just be aware of these things that might be a culture shock for you. And also maybe you guys have experienced more culture shocks when you were here, if you're watching this from here. So just comment in the comment section there below and tell us what you thought, and if you relate to some of the shocks that we also got and how your experience was. So be free to just comment, share, subscribe, share this with your friends so that they can see and they can also share their experiences and we can see the contrast of how it is.
And
parting shot, Jacqueline?
We have another culture shock that can be checked in a previous video, which is how clean the ghettos are.
Yeah.
You can watch that one in the other video.
Yeah, exactly. I have a video called Swedish Ghettos, a really nice video because I was going through some ghettos here in Sweden, and they're very
they're not what you will
and ghetto like.
ghetto.
Yeah, because actually when I moved here, I was living in that place, and then people were like, you're living there in the ghetto, you're living there in the ghetto. And for me, I was wondering, oh my gosh, what do you
Which
mean?
ghetto?
This place looks like, the middle class in Kenya. So yeah,
You can put the link.
I'll put the link there. So anyways, thanks for watching.
Thank
Kish
you.
My World, top of the morning. See you in the next one. Like, share, subscribe, and we are out.